Story 1. Kids are idiots, laugh out loud. Asian is complex, just as European is. There is a world of difference between a Chinese woman and a Japanese one. Socioeconomic differences also make people very different. A wealthy person from Singapore is vastly different from a poor Japanese person. Generalizations make people feel the comfort of a certainty they did not have to work to earn. Story 2. What is the question behind your question here? Ask him to show you mewing and offer to take a picture of his jawline today, and then you will take another in 6 months. Ask him why he thinks Asian women are superior. Is it the seemingly docile and supportive nature? Is it the soft skin? Just engage and ask questions and let him explain, and sometimes hearing himself speak will be all he needs to understand. Story 3. If my oldest nephew, who is 17, said this, I would tell him he's an idiot, and he needs to stop objectifying women. Luckily, my nephew isn't a creepy person, just a difficult one. Story 4. I have honestly no idea. I'm 20 and absolutely see the differences between me and some of my younger siblings. It's bizarre. What happened to going outside and eating dirt and stuff? Also, mewing is something my family has done for a long time that my mom taught my siblings and me for pictures, which she learned from her grandma. It's an oral posture that gives the jawline prominence without looking like a caveman, or more of a lean look to the face. It's not for the long term, though. I think kids might take it to a weird level now and talk about it as if it's new. I wonder when they will rediscover grass, or Star Trek, or maybe basic grammar, reading, and comprehension skills. One can only hope. Story 5. Get him to explain what he means. Then, when his reasoning quickly falls apart, tell him to get off TikTok and whatever weird alt-right algorithm he's found himself on. Story 6. Zoomer? So, they are basically 28 years old or 8 years old at best. I'm guessing they are somewhere in between. I am guessing that they are a teenager. I'm thinking 14 years old. In my humble opinion, talk to them. Figure it out. Test it out. Humor them. Use the Socratic method of questioning. Plant some healthier thoughts into their head and slowly nurture them. They will learn the truth eventually. Helping them out only speeds up the timeline. Story 7. I feel like mewing is, as far as teen habits go, relatively harmless. What was it back then? I think it was smoking. You were supposed to smoke cigarettes to look tough and cool. As far as Asian women go, it was not really a thing back then because, first, there weren't any around unless you lived in a place they had immigrated to like California or Vanta, and second, there was open racism against them. What next? Maybe the next teen craze is wearing a suit and tie, volunteering at the congregation, or going to the opera. Story 8. Tell him to spend more time loving himself and less time hating the male condition. It is just part of it. Society and corporations see men as tools and women as tool manufacturers. Neither life is very great. It is bleak for everyone. Just love yourself and be kind where you can. Story 9. You sit him down and explain to him how disgusting and pathetic such objectification is, and how assimilated medical technique beauty trends are fads that will fade faster than he expects. Then ask him if he knows about the Asian bagel head trend that swept the world a few years ago. When he says no, just smile and nod knowingly. Story 10. Ask him how many Asian women he has slept with. I guarantee you it is 0. Then tell him whatever mewing is, it is lame, and ask if our hunter-gatherer ancestors would approve of his approach towards life. They would not. Story 11. I would let him try to explain it to me. Either he then realizes himself how illogical his arguments are, or I realize how dumb or crazy he really is, which gives me a reason to cut contact with him. Story 12. I thought you said he was meowing. I was so confused. But is that an Asian thing? I've never heard of it before. I did see explanations here on what it was, though. Story 13. Ignore meowing, maybe threaten with a stapler. Bro has no idea what an Asian woman is. Young Western men tend to fetishize East Asian women without understanding anything about the culture or even the continent. Story 14. I am a millennial Asian woman, and I do not believe that any race or gender is superior to another. Using a modern liberal Asian parenting style, I suggest you have a talk with him about why he thinks that way. Find out why, and from there, you learn how to address his opinion about Asian women and the subject of mewing. Also, make him respect your stance that Asian women are not superior. It is perfectly all right that younger generations are able to express their opinions freely but sensibly. However, being obnoxious and repetitive about it is definitely wrong, just as with forcing others to agree with you. There must be a peaceful understanding of disagreements. Story 15. I had this conversation about creeps who think that Eastern European women are superior to Western women because of traditional conservative values with my friend and his fiancée, who is a Serbian. Basically, they have their own approach where the family will make sure that you are pulling your weight, are respectful to her, and ensure you are not taking advantage of her. My friend had to prove to his fiancée's grandmother that he isn't a wimp by going outside and chopping wood for an hour. My observation is that they want someone who is self-respecting and will respect the woman, not someone whose mantra is dominance over others. Basically, tell your cousin that if he keeps that foolish idea in his head, he'll stay a wimp who won't be able to handle a real woman when he sees one. Story 16. 99.9% of everything you see online about women is just bad storytelling. If you watch Battlefield Earth because it's fun to mock a terrible movie, that's fine. If you watch Battlefield Earth hoping to learn about how to make a movie, you are screwing up. The same goes for people like Andrew Tate and others like him. Watching to make fun of a loser who knows nothing is fine. Watching to learn something useful is a disastrous mistake. Story 17. Sign him up for Chinese or Japanese lessons. He's wrong, but understanding why he's wrong is extremely nuanced, and simply shouting him down, denying his perspective, or bullying him is likely just going to strengthen his beliefs. If you encourage him to actually explore these cultures, which should be a high priority for him if he's serious about the idea of the decline of Western women, he might find the best partner directly from the source before they become westernized. He will gradually come to realize how his cultural perspective has led him to completely misunderstand the situation. If you can convince him to genuinely try, he'll also gain an invaluable life skill. I have known plenty of people who have turned cultural fetishization into genuine appreciation by actively trying to learn about the culture, rather than viewing it from afar without engaging in it. This is true for both Westerners fetishizing Easterners and vice versa. As for the practice of improving one's appearance through certain exercises, it's anecdotal and pseudoscientific at worst, but I don't think wanting to improve oneself is necessarily a bad thing. Try to use this energy to get him into more research-based self-improvement activities like going to the gym. Obviously, there's an underlying concern about what kind of circles he's interacting with, either socially or online, but I think as long as he is well socialized with goals and genuine achievements, he will most likely naturally evolve out of such misogynistic and nihilistic views. Keep an eye out, though. Story 18. Get a pen and paper. Approach the question with complete rationality and in a very calm manner. Ask many questions about why he thinks that. His questions will lack any nuance. Point these out, ask further questions, give examples, and show why he is wrong. Write everything down so it becomes easier for him to see the flow of logic. Other extreme approaches do nothing in terms of changing his mind. Story 19. I had to look up mewing. Ask him if he and his looks-maximizing brother are going to break bones in their faces with hammers next. The kid needs to go outside, get off the internet, and interact with real people. People with jobs, cars, responsibilities, and relationships. The Asian woman thing. Explain to him he is promoting a racist stereotype. If he pushes back, tell him to explain his position, but only with examples from the real world and people he has met in person. If you care about his long-term social, career, and romantic prospects, someone has to straighten him out soon. Consider addressing this issue seriously. Story 20. Do what our parents' generation did. Tell him he does not know anything about anything and that he is probably going to have to learn the hard way if he does not listen to you. Which he won't. Story 21. Explain that if he has a physical preference, he doesn't have to justify it by putting down other people. You like what you like. Don't be rude about it. Also, an Asian woman will challenge you more because they have a greater cultural expectation. I've met plenty of men who regret marrying an Asian woman. Story 22. I tell him, nephew, the idea of Asian women is definitely superior. But in reality, They're just as annoying as Western women. Straighten him right out. Story 23. Best way to change people's behavior is to make the thing you want them to do the easiest or most rewarding path forward. Be a positive role model and show him how much better your approach to getting dates works. If you can help him succeed, he will realize the best partners are the ones who like him. If you don't actually have anything positive or pragmatic to offer, leave him alone. You probably know as much or less about younger women as he does. Story 24. I would tell him to listen and analyze a lot longer before he reacts emotionally. These things appeal to boys because they have a kernel of truth that everyone wants to dismiss. Those kernels then just get downright silly and turn into whole religions, especially with a demographic that thinks they will become rich by buying a picture of a bored ape. The reason so much of this takes hold is because every other source of information just sounds like people are taking whatever logical path they need to take to blame boys. And boys are looking for anything that doesn't make them the sole villain to the extreme. If you can't provide them with an alternative that allows them some dignity, then they'll reject alternatives. If all the solutions involve them being understanding, humble, and tucking their tails between their legs while not telling others to do the same to them, he won't listen. You need to come up with something, anything, that allows him to have expectations of his own and not always feel like he was the one that should have done more. Good luck. You'll be fighting all the other messaging out there in the process. Story 25. Roll your eyes, enjoy the cringe, say the obligatory. What you see in media doesn't represent the reality. Bring it up when he's 25. Remember your cringe weeboo phase? Story 26. I, a white 62-year-old male, have been with a Chinese woman for 40 years. She is the love of my life, traditional, a follower, a supporter, and absolutely loyal for better or worse. She is many things, an Orientalist fantasy, the opposite of a feminist, but submissive, like hell. Not in this universe. Story 27. Ask him, what color is your Bugatti? Then do the stanky leg while holding a figurine of Padme in her white outfit from Star Wars. Attack of the Clones Episode 2. Story 28. I would tell your nephew to go date my toxic, abusive, cheating Nepali ex-wife if she thinks they're necessarily so great. She needs a guy since no one has put up with her behavior after I left. I'll stick with my awesome white American girlfriend. Thinking in stereotypes is foolish. Story 29. Tell him, cool story, bro. And move on. Laugh out loud. Mewing has some decent principles that have helped with my breathing and breath capacity. Maybe remind him there are unpleasant people of every race. Story 30. Well, I am from the United Kingdom, and I think it is in a man's self-interest to not date British women. They have a terrible attitude towards men and relationships and are not, in my opinion, attractive. 1 in 3 are overweight or obese. After age 35, many of them look like actual trolls. Why not just encourage him to go and get what he wants instead of settling for what women have told him he is meant to settle for? Story 31. Mewing is just a word for keeping good posture above the shoulders. It makes your face look a little nicer, but the people who promote it as mewing claim it also changes your face long-term to be more attractive, though there are no studies showing this. Story 32. It depends on preferences, though I would say I find Asian women better long-term relationship partners than Western women, and I have dated both. It's something about traditional values and respecting men in their culture, which is so much better than your generic liberal Western woman who constantly hates men. I have had the most fun in my life dating Asian women. Most Western women I dated were overly demanding and always played the feminist card whenever they could. It's funny how feminists constantly hate on men, and then some masculine man walks into the room, and they all start acting very feminine to attract his attention. There are many examples of this on the internet. Story 33. That's a misguided perspective. Asian women are in no way superior to Western women. They might have, on average, slightly higher intelligence quotients, but that's about all that's quantifiable. They might also have, on average, a healthier body mass index, but it's not like they can't and don't become obese, so the point is moot. The rest is simply preference. One might prefer some things about the way Asian women look or the cultural norms, but that has little to do with the woman and more with the culture. Find a third-generation Chinese or any other Asian girl here in the West, And the only difference between her and all the other women around is usually aesthetic. Story 34. I would take him outside for a long, stern, tough love talk about women. We would probably be out there for an hour or more. I would make no bones about where the little troublemaker is headed if he keeps this attitude up. Maybe I would get through to him, maybe I would not, but at least he would know what was waiting for him. That's how you solve these things, by telling people the truth. Story 35. Women, no matter where they're from, expect a traditional masculine man. However, women from Asia are more likely to be traditional feminine women in exchange. Why would you be a stoic protector and provider for a frigid feminist who resents you and does nothing in return? Mewing is an attempt to make your jaw look more forward and strong by consciously changing where your tongue rests. Story 36. I can already tell what your nephew looks and smells like. Tell him to avoid any martial arts outside of a boxing gym or a substandard martial arts school. If he's anything like the last fool that came in, he'll pick a fight with a short Asian guy, not knowing he's a Thai boxer with a fight record from overseas, and end up leaving the place needing stitches and a fractured orbital. I'm more than happy, however, to pay for a flight for your nephew, and I'll get him a fight at Lumpini Stadium. It's cheap too, since I'll only need to get a one-way ticket because they'll absolutely defeat him in the ring. Source: I have mixed Asian heritage, first generation. Every family man was military. Dad got citizenship through service, and I was trained since I was young. We don't play, and a lot of us are really sick of arrogant individuals thinking they're tough.